Son, you know, once you start, there's no going back.
I know.
This means total commitment. Once you begin the path, there is no leaving the path. Are you sure you're ready for that? I mean, really ready?
I guess so.
Neat. We'll start tomorrow.
CHECKMATE SHOWDOwn is a newly developing fighting game where the premise is chess meets fighting games. The game is currently in the beta phase of development, but I managed to be one of the lucky people to be accepted to playtest the game. This video's purpose will be explaining what CHECKMATE SHOWDOwn is, showing gameplay in the background to showcase what it looks like, my personal opinion of the game with its strengths and weaknesses that it possesses, and how it can improve. Now, considering I'm relatively new to the fighting scene where I've only put time into 2 fighting games, these being Soul Calibur 6 and Tekken 7 due to the slower and more controlled speed of the gameplay, not to mention my elo sitting at a mere 600 at the time of recording, and I've had some of those games where my reviews have been as bad as 200 elo with 10 blunders. You would think that CHECKMATE SHOWDOwn would be my cup of tea, but surprisingly I'm having a lot more fun in CHECKMATE SHOWDOwn than Tekken or chess combined. The game starts out like a normal game of chess, pretty standard things happening as you would expect in chess. The real fun comes from how all the pieces have different fighting archetypes with relatively simple movesets, so it's not a problem to remember all the movesets for each character. The Rook, being the beefy, massive character it is the grappler. The Rook uses powerful command grabs to make opponents think twice about how they want to engage him, land or air. The Knight is the zoner, with its JoJo-like stances to attack you from range, but isn't as combo heavy as the other classes. The Bishop is a rushdown character with fast attacks and speed to close the distance at the cost of struggling to get in without having to use special moves. The Queen is more of an all-rounder class who doesn't excel in any specific area, but has a bunch of options to respond to any kind of threat. Has an anti-throw, good engage tools, and has high combo damage potential, especially when you add the ults as well. The King is more of a setup juggernaut character, where it uses specials to stage attacks in his favour and dish out the punishment, but can be opened up quite easily if you're not careful about your special bar. Now, the pawns don't have any moveset, but this is done on purpose to give chess players an advantage. If pawns don't fight when capturing pieces or being captured, it means they can take a piece without the need of a fight. So, with good pawn placement, the chess player will be able to choke out the enemy pieces before they even got the chance to fight. And for extra insult to injury, a pawn can freely take the enemy king with no fight and win with checkmate like that. Sometimes, they've just gotta learn the hard way.
Why would you do that? That was dumb, bro. What?
But this doesn't mean fighting players are left in the dirt. The main premise and way to win in a normal game of chess is through captures. So if you're a better fighting player compared to your opponent, you'll have an easier time taking material and capturing the king when you feel the need to do so. Trust me, try to record some gameplay footage of this game and I've had some going for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, all because I couldn't defend my king against a bishop. Yeah, it felt really painful. So a chess player could ask the question, what's to stop the fighting player from just rushing my king? If they are better at fighting games than me, I'll just lose due to never being able to win a fight and capture a piece myself. Well, health carries over from fight to fight with all pieces, and every piece have 1000 HP. At the end of every fight, the health is always rounded up to the nearest 200. Even if a fight is won with 401 HP left at the end of the fight, that piece will start its next fight on 600 HP because it always rounds upwards, not downwards. So, if the fighting player wanted to just send in the bishop to directly challenge the king, the bishop is going to have a couple of fights before it gets there, and it'll most likely be badly injured itself when it does arrive. Or unless you get Earthquake with his bishop and it just full sends on 3 different pieces and wins every single fight.
Oh,
Queen
and a
gone,
beautiful
bishop.
anti to close it out. That was a huge combo from Earthquake.
Honestly, Net should have just combo breaked.
My goodness, Girthquake just absolutely demolishing him.
But the bishop is definitely by far a
Oh,
lot
he
more
just takes
intuitive.
another one. Oh, and the grab.
And he does
The
it again.
cross up.
And he does it again.
What is this bishop? It took 3 pieces.
And he didn't even lose any chunks in the past two. But the health carrying over isn't just the only game mechanic in place to make fights more interesting or strategic. When a piece engages a fight with another piece, the attacker has an ult over the enemy. The ult is a one-time use with every piece having a different one, but if you whiff the ultimate, it will come back over time. The defending piece of course doesn't have access to ults. On top of this, if multiple pieces are attacking or defending another piece, they'll become an option to be an assist in the fight. So defending your pieces is also highly encouraged. If you have two different types of pieces defending or attacking another piece, you'll have the option of which piece you want to be an assist, and of course, each piece has a different type of assist. So planning out your fights and knowing how to take smart fights will give you an advantage before it's even begun. I remember a game where a vast majority of my fights I took had ultimate and assist on top of my enemy having neither. I would say I'm a stronger chess player than fighting game player, so these kinds of advantages made all the difference and balanced out the fight for me. Something that helps both sides is combo breakers. By pressing RT and B for Xbox, RT and circle for PlayStation, or L plus O since it's also keyboard supported, you can interrupt the opponent's combo at any time. When you use it, it won't come back until the small blue bar underneath your health is filled back up. How it recharges is taking damage or getting perfect blocks. If you use it in the early game and on full HP at the start of the fight, you should be able to get 2 combo breakers in a fight, but you're guaranteed to have one in a fight because both players have one at the start of every fight. The game gives you options on how you want to play, but the game also encourages using both aspects of the game to make it easier to win in Checkmate Showdown. Not to mention it changes how typical chess is played. A piece that would normally be captured under normal chess rules can fight back and have the chance to brush off the attack and then follow up with a move on the board of their own. Not to mention checks and mates don't exist. You can leave your king in check or mate if you want to, but this is risky due to your opponent having the choice to damage or even kill your own king. Or unless you're Son Dueler who doesn't care about a queen in the face of your own king and you decide to push out your bishop to attack the enemy king, brush off the queen attack like it's nothing, and then fully kill the enemy's king. And now this is where the ego challenge pays off now, because now he gets to attack his king. But he's just desperately oh no.
Oh,
it's over.
There's the air heavy. Checkmate.
That was very impressively done by Sondula. That come around. Go from queen in checkmate to dethroning the enemy king in just 2 moves. It also changes how fighting games have been played out from my small experience and looking at other fighting games that I didn't quite like, such as Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Killer Instinct. When the fight starts, both players are on equal footing, no way to get advantages in the fight before they even break out. Some differences are some characters have more HP, like Sentinel in Marvel vs. Capcom is a glass cannon and has ridiculously low health but makes up for it with something within its kit. But in Checkmate Showdown, if you utilise the chess aspect of the game, you can create fights where you'll have an ult advantage and assist on the enemy who has just relied on their fighting and 0 aid with other defending or attacking pieces. And coming from experience, due to me being bad at both aspects, doing this has allowed me to make better fighting players think twice on how they engage me. Sure, I lose a lot of health in the fights with all advantages, but a win is a win. With all the talk about chess in this video, you would think it's in favour for the chess player. Well, the game is still a fighting game at heart, so it's going to favour the fighting player and a lot more than you think. If they are just that good, you will get steamrolled before you get to play your favourite chess opening. and I've lost every single time when I try to rely on my chess lore. I've had a couple of games where I've managed to take 2 to 3 and sometimes even 4 enemy pieces with pawns, and I still get messed over because of one attack on my king. And when you're not good at fighting games, you tend to try and not take fights, but then your enemy will take fights that would normally be bad in chess but get value due to sheer skill plus ult advantage, and it snowballs the effect of not wanting to play the game anymore. So since I'm a very heavy FPS player, I try to view the game in a way I can understand. And the way I see Checkmate Showdown is chess is like the support role like Mercy in Overwatch. Chess players don't do massive damage like the DPS characters or the fighting player in this comparison, but if they support the DPS player, it makes the DPS's job far more easier to get the team win. So when it comes to Checkmate Showdown, I want to bet that fighting players will have a much easier time climbing the low ranks, but when it comes to the high ranks, they'll suffer to good chess players who've learnt the hard way about fighting games. A small but massive help towards chess players is to have a tutorial in the lab of some simple combos to use. At first I was just spamming buttons a little bit because I had no idea what buttons did what, but when I learned some basic combos for all the pieces, and then I started to try and learn some more advanced combos, wins actually started to roll in a bit. Going to the example of Tekken, a playback feature can help a lot. So you have the game tell you, in this situation, do this. It'll incentivize learning the game instead of just raging and quitting the game to never pick it back up because it was frustrating to the point it felt like you couldn't do anything because you're a better chess player than you are a fighting player. There's a system in the game where you have 10 seconds grace time to think about your next move, and after that it eats into your 5-minute timer. With 10 seconds of grace time, that's more than enough time to think about your next move. That's not even the worst part. Apparently, if the timer runs out, the game is forced into sudden death and all pieces fight. If you are so confident in the fighting aspect and have a bad chess position, you can just take your hands off the board until the timer runs out and suddenly you have a greater chance of winning because you went AFK. If you run out of time, you should lose the game. It should not put you into sudden death. Another small but annoying thing about the game is you can see what your opponent is hovering over, and you can't check the health of your pieces during your opponent's turn. If I can see what my opponent is hovering over, I can start to understand what he or she is planning for and do a counter attack to it. In chess.com you can only see what the last move was, and that's fine. I would like that added to Checkmate Showdown if I'm going to be completely honest, because sometimes I do alt tab and then I wonder what my opponent's last move was and I'm there figuring out what it was. I would also like to see what health pieces are on without my opponent also seeing this information. I'm doing it during my opponent's turn, not just my own, so it's his turn or her turn and they're taking quite some time. It gives me some time to strategize. I need to check the health of my pieces to make sure I'm going to do an actual good attack before I actually commit to it. The king just feels like a different piece in terms of the fighting aspect. Yeah, it has a different archetype and fighting style, but it still goes down all the same. It doesn't feel like a big massive hype fight. A way to make fighting a king more impactful / challenging is to raise the health to 1500 HP and chunks in every 300. This way, when a king does get into a fight, it feels a lot harder to topple and win the game, and then it just feels a lot more better when you win, especially if you take the king down from 1500 to 0, because as it currently stands, it just feels like another piece to kill, but it's a lot more of an important piece to kill. All in all, Checkmate Showdown is great fun in both the brains of the chess part and the brawn of the fighting part. Since it's in beta, there's no need to cover the meta because that's not the focus point of this review, and balance is bound to happen before it's released on November 15th this year. There hasn't been a confirmed price point for Checkmate Showdown, however with the information from the Discord server, it seems to float around the $20 mark. I can't wait for the next test, which is on September 8th and will last until September 10th. and I can't wait to get my ass clapped again. I mean, enjoy what changes have happened since the last beta. I would heavily recommend playing Checkmate Showdown if you're into fighting games, because this will feel like a nice breath of fresh air. If you're more of a chess player, you're gonna have a lot of learning. I barely play any fighting games because I'm a heavy FPS player myself, and it took me a while to pull off this combo in Tekken. But then I practiced a lot and pulled this combo out by instinct. And that final hit just felt really satisfying because I did it without even training for that one. So with all that, don't stop playing because you can't win a single fight, and eventually you'll pick up steam and get a win yourself. All I have to say is, I look forward to seeing you all on the battlefield.